Hello everyone, welcome to another list of 5 things, or my top 5 as I call the series. So this morning I was minded to do this because I'd been reading a little bit more about Gleam. I know I've already done an IT wildcard episode on this, but I thought it would be interesting thing to do is sort of stake another flag in the sand in terms of 5 broad areas for Gleam, so Gleam resources that I think will be useful if you're interested in going down a Gleam rabbit hole. And so I'm going to go through these. They're roughly, I suppose, areas of resources that I'm starting to look at, uncover. Now, the problem I've got at the moment is obviously how much time I want to spend on this, not this video, but just looking at Gleam, because currently I've got 2 other programming projects I'm working on, which I'm not going to push away to look at Gleam. One is the 7 languages in 7 weeks book, where I'm taking each of the 7 languages but spending a month going through, spend 1 week reading the book and then the remaining 3 weeks going through and kicking the tires and everything. And I'm now up to and I've done 4 weeks of Ruby, and I'll be switching over to IO, so that's going to carry on, and every month I'm going to, or every 4 weeks, I suppose, more accurately, I'm going to produce a video about my sort of first takes on the language as I've sort of spent a week on the book, or 3 days a week. That's what I'm doing, 3 days a week, learning it, and then what I've learned so far, and then after that, the remaining 3 weeks, I then spend just sort of going down various rabbit holes for the language. So that's still on the go. And I've got another thing I'm working on, which is in the evening, I'm putting together, just building out a little presentation on the history of programming languages, which I'm doing in PowerPoint, and I'm just seeing where that's going to lead me. Obviously there'll be a video at some point for that, but at the moment I'm just building out the resources. So back to Gleam. Obviously the first place to start, because it's there and it's pretty well developed, is the website for Gleam. So if you look through here, the main page, what I like about it is, all the code is nicely formatted and has, code highlighting, so it's really easy to read. And as I think I pointed out in my previous video for the IT wildcard, you can go in and try Gleam here, so no problem there if you want to experiment with it. And it's one of these walkthrough language tours, which is really cool. For the rest of the site, some of it's actually on the site itself. So the news is the community as well. The breakout links, so the sponsor takes you to the sponsors page on GitHub. Packages still within the website, though it looks slightly differently, but you've got the list of the available packages in there. Docs and a code link, which also takes you up to GitHub. So there's a pretty good, I noticed on here, if we go into Docs, installing Gleam for all the different systems here. Do note that if you're thinking of doing this, you can see here it mentions an installation from Scoop. So when I start playing around with this language for real, because this is my sort of second hot take here, and I thought, I'd just put this together because at the moment I'm exploring the resources, and probably sometime this afternoon or evening I'm going to start building out my Gleam environment. So clearly, one thing I've got to do is get Scoop on this system. The other thing is you do need to install Erlang, so I've got to do that as well. But I'm going to need Erlang at some point, because Erlang and Elixir, which are both on this Beam, which we'll talk about in a moment, which is the Erlang virtual environment. They both feature in the 7 Languages in 7 Weeks books, one in the first one in the second one. So that's going to be really useful later today when I start to build out my environment. I mean, I'll probably install this and then install the relevant plugins in Visual Studio Code as a starting point. But I'll see what's available in the bare bones language in terms of its own ecosystem. What's interesting is when you start to look at resources that are available on Wikipedia. I was pleased to note, because I came in before I did the IT Wildcard episode and tried to find a Wikipedia article on the language and couldn't, but I could today. So I thought, well, did I miss something? But no, I actually recorded the video sometime. I think it went out on the 12th. I think was the date the video went out. So at that point, this is still in the early days. This is the 11th of March here. So yeah. So that's something there that makes me happy in the fact that I didn't actually miss it. It just wasn't really there. Now, I mentioned that this exists within the sort of Beam virtual machine, or within that sort of Beam ecosystem. So other languages that you may have heard of, Erlang, which is the original one, I believe. Yeah. So there we have it. And Elixir. I'll include links to all of these in this particular episode of my top 5. Now, the other thing I thought it'd be helpful to do, and I did this morning, just between, I always have this sort of exercise routine I do in the morning, and sort of when I'm taking a little break for like a minute between different parts of my routine, because some of it I do to failure, I put together a little list on Spotify. So I've collected together all of the podcast episodes I could find where they're talking about the Gleam programming language, and I thought people might find that quite useful. So I'll include a link to that. Don't worry if you don't have Spotify, because if you do try and open it, you can see I'm not logged in currently, even though I have a Spotify account, and it is showing up. So at least you should be able to independently track down the podcasts out of Spotify, because you can see it's got all the names here of the podcasts and the title. The nice thing is, I think all of these do feature Louis Pilfold, who is the creator of the language. So that's always really nice. And I've put these in chronological order, but reverse. So newest first, going backwards. But yeah, really cool. I listened to this first episode. Yeah, seems like a really interesting guy. Comes across really well. Yeah, I wish I could talk like him. He's very, very focused. Yeah, excellent. So yeah, I'd check it out. And then another nice thing, and I think I may have mentioned this in the IT Wildcard episode, is it's already on Exorcism. And you can see I'm 0.8% through the Gleam track. Yeah, so that's another useful resource for exploring the language, is to work through the exercises on Exorcism. And I really enjoy this website. At the moment, I've got obviously Ruby I'm using as part of my learning ecosystem. I also haven't touched Python on here for a couple of months. That was another project I was going to do, which sort of got abandoned when the allure of the 7 languages appealed to me more than the allure of, well, I think I was originally going to learn, was it 12 languages related to AI? but I decided not to go down that rabbit hole because I was already doing other AI related stuff anyway. And then finally, obviously, it makes sense to try and track down stuff on YouTube, because a lot of what I'm saying here is super obvious, but I thought it'd be nice, to provide 5 nice starting points. Exorcism do these really cool Meet the Creators. So yeah, there's a Meet the Creator of Gleam episode, so I'll include a link to that. That was a year ago. But also, and it is linked to in the Gleam Wikipedia article, and this is how I found it this morning, a really quite up-to-date presentation that Louis Pilfold did at FOSDEM. Now, I haven't watched this yet. I've only just been made aware of it, but I thought, as he's a great speaker. So if you look through, there is stuff, I believe, for VS Code. If you're curious, those currently are the editor plugins. And there may well be other ones as well that aren't on the list. So Vim, Emacs, Visual Studio Code, Sublime Text, Atom, Gedit. I'm aware of these. Gedit, not used yet. Maybe I should check that out as well. I think it's always good to have a look at different code editors. I've looked at Vim and Emacs, but I've never used them in anger. These 3 I have. Well, I say in anger, basically for kitchen table coding, as I call it. I don't even know if I've still got Atom on here or not. I think I might have it on my main machine. Yeah. I know it's still installed on one of my boxes. So, I'm trying to remember what I've got on my Ubuntu. What that has on it. I know that's got Visual Studio Code. There is another editor on there as well. I think my laptop's got Atom on it. The other one I like is Code Blocks, actually. Not sure if it's on Code Blocks. I'm interested to see, once I install this, what sort of base ecosystem there is. Because, I'm always fascinated by that. Like, I think anybody that watched my Rust series I did, I know that I really enjoyed the Rust ecosystem. That was fantastic. And also when I did Closure, there was aspects of that. I'm trying to remember the name of the container manager in that I used, which was fun because I'd not used that before. Anyway, I digress. So there we go. So more than 5 here on the screen in terms of overall resources, but really 5 resource containers that I'm going to include links to in those areas. So the website itself, super obvious. Wikipedia resource, again, pretty obvious, but interesting that that's only just been created in the last few days. The stuff that I brought together on Spotify, I'm not going to delete this playlist. Stuff on exorcism, and then the interesting stuff on YouTube. Also, again, on YouTube is a brief introduction to Gleam as well. And I highly recommend actually taking a look at the Exorcism channel on YouTube, actually. So there we have it. That's all I really want to talk about in this video. Thanks once again for watching. Bye for now. And I will catch you in a future episode.